And welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But welcome to the first live stream about the Dallas Cowboys here. All the different transactions that happened for the Cowboys over this offseason, all the news and rumors you've been waiting for are all going to be in one place here at the Upside. So remember, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do so. Trying to reach 250 by the end of the week. So let's see if we can make that happen. Now, the Dallas Cowboys have been in the news pretty much every day since the season has ended, as they always are. They're America's team, debating on whether or not you can still call them America's team after they haven't won a title since 95, 96-ish. It's been a while anyway. The Patriots have since won a bunch of titles, and it's time that Dallas finally wins another title, so we'll see what happens. They've certainly made their best effort to try to get there. So, without further ado, let's get it started. First and foremost, there's been a ton of changes, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Amari Cooper is no longer around. Randy Gregory is no longer around. They did manage to sign a contract extension or rework the deal anyway for DeMarcus Lawrence. They restructured the contracts of both Dak Prescott and Zach Martin to create cap room, but they really haven't gone out and gone after any marquee free agents or at least signed any as of yet. So let's kind of start with chronological order. Where did they start with? Well, they were about $20 million over the cap to start before the offseason began, and so they had some work to do. Their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator were both hot candidates for coaching positions pretty much everywhere. Dan Quinn was pretty much offered a position with one of the teams but backed out after he realized his heart was really in Dallas and wanted to stay there. He's definitely one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. Dallas, for years, had been trying to replicate the Seattle Seahawks defense. They finally got the architect of that defense in Dan Quinn. Will they get the actual player on the field of that defense, Bobby Wagner? We'll get to that in just a few minutes. Now, as far as what they ended up doing, they ended up keeping both offensive coordinators. They ended up having to restructure both Dak Prescott and Zach Martin to create enough cap space to sign Dalton Schultz to his franchise tag. Now, Schultz has not signed that tag yet, so he still is eligible to receive a contract extension as long as they get it done before the midsummer deadline. Will they get it done? More than likely, yes, because it will create more cap room. The Cowboys like to lock up their own players, so I expect that to get done. There hasn't been any acrimony between them, so this should get done. Seems like they're just waiting to find other players, get other needs filled first before they approach Dalton Schultz about a contract extension. Now, the next thing they went through, they had to decide what they were going to do to try to get even further under the cap. They looked at DeMarcus Lawrence and said, hey, we need you to take a pay cut. DeMarcus Lawrence said, me? I'm the war daddy, as Jerry Jones likes to call him, and he wasn't going to have that. And now, as far as what DeMarcus Lawrence camp, I can kind of understand it. He's been one of the better run defenders in the NFL. He still gets good pressure rates, but he's not getting home. He's not getting the sack, and that's not something the Dallas Cowboys were looking for when they signed him to that huge contract all those years ago. However, after cooler heads prevailed, he was able to sign kind of a contract extension. Gave him 3 years, $40 million, 30 of which was guaranteed. Let us know in the comment section what you think of that contract, seeing as how he hasn't broken 7 sacks in a number of years. His best years were always his underneath that franchise tag. You always hear it in the past anyway. A contract year, of course, the player is going to play better. Once he got that money, whether you believe or not, the effort was there or not, the performance wasn't there. The results weren't there. And that's what the Cowboys were hoping for when they signed him to that massive contract. Same could be said for Ezekiel Elliott. When you franchise tag somebody at that age, same thing with Dak Prescott. You franchise tag somebody for that performance. You're hoping once you get him to that long-term contract, that performance continues or gets better. And pretty much in those cases, it's either stagnated or gotten a little worse with Ezekiel Elliott. Accuracy with Prescott remains the question, as it was when he first came into the league. Is he going to improve? He hasn't shown some improvement, but as we saw as the season started to wear on, the offensive numbers just started to dip for the Cowboys, and they had to struggle down to the finish line to get everything done. They still didn't advance in the playoffs. Hardest thing if you're a Cowboy fan is winning in the playoffs, seeing your team have all this promise, all the talk, all the bluster, and then come up short. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Now, as far as the next thing that they end up going down their checklist, Lyle Collins was the next name that they were going to have to move. Lyle Collins, they told him, hey, we're either going to cut you or trade you. They gave permission to him and his agents to go ahead and seek a trade. There were a number of different teams that reached out, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, but the main two were the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, the AFC Super Bowl competitor, the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals and Cowboys seem to run their teams very similarly as far as Jerry Jones and the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. You see Chidobe Awuzie and a number of different Cowboys over the years have gone to the Bengals after their career in Dallas was over. Lyle Collins might find a home there. After all, they need offensive line pretty much at every single position on that offensive line. He'd definitely be an upgrade for them. That right guard spot, maybe he fills in there. He did play guard. He does have some experience playing guard, so pretty much anywhere on that offensive line they decide to put him, he'll be a vast improvement over what they had. The Patriots have also checked in on him as far as possibly getting him via trade, but now Lyle Collins has been cut, released, and there's all of those teams are still in the mix. So we'll see where he ends up going. After they discussed Lyle Collins, the next thing that came out was that Bobby Wagner was released by the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Leighton Vander Esch at the time was not signed to a contract. Since then, Leighton Vander Esch has signed a one-year deal. So even with that signing, I don't think that precludes them from going after somebody like Bobby Wagner. Like I said, they got the architect of the defense. Now they need the main piece of that defense in Bobby Wagner to eat up all those tackles, those kinds of things. The defensive line, the defensive tackle anyway, position has improved over the years, so we'll see what kind of effectiveness they have. Odigizua and Bohanna as well. We'll see what kind of effectiveness they have in year 2, 3, and 4 of their rookie deals. But they need some middle linebackers to kind of eat up those tackles for them. Jalen Smith is no longer there. They're still carrying some of that dead cap money. Cap management in the Cowboys, that could have been done better, to be honest. But they still need a middle linebacker. Leighton Vander Esch, I think, could be an option there, but I think they're still looking at Bobby Wagner to come in and maybe play Leighton Vander Esch in that Keanu Neal role that they had last year. The next thing that they chose to do was to go ahead and get rid of Blake Jarwin via injury designation. We are still looking for a place kicker after they released Greg Zuerlein as well. Greg the Leg is no longer on the Cowboys. There was some belief out there after Johnny Hecker was released by the Los Angeles Rams that he might come to Dallas, the punter anyway. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case, Cowboys fans. He's since gone on, I believe, to Tennessee. So your days of reuniting the LA Rams special teams coach and the main piece of that special teams unit and the punter, Johnny Hecker, not going to happen either. After that, the big question became what they're going to do with Amari Cooper. Now, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jones had said some things in the media as far as like, was he playing worth that was his play worth that contract? Jerry Jones didn't believe so. He did play through injury pretty much the entire year last year, put up numbers pretty much consistently every week in and out. However, because of those injuries, he was kind of hobbled some, and maybe the effort was or was not there. Obviously, I'm not there in practice. You're not there in practice, but we're seeing a kind of some conflicting remarks about the Cowboys coaches about Cooper's performance on the field and what reporters were seeing. So we'll see, what ends up happening as he goes on to Cleveland. But before the trade had happened, they were either going to have to trade or cut him. And at that time, they still needed to save some cap money. By trading him, they saved about $16 million against the cap, allows them to go after some of those high-priced free agents or re-sign some of their own players. Now, on that front, because they signed DeMarcus Lawrence to that extension, 3 years, $40 million with 30 guaranteed, they were looking to fill that left end as well, to give DeMarcus Lawrence somebody, a tag team partner on the other side anyway, with Randy Gregory. Now, I know what you might be saying. Micah Parsons was the best pass rusher in the NFL last year, graded out as the best pass rusher in the NFL. And while that may be true, his biggest key to the biggest advantage the Cowboys have is that they can deploy him wherever they need to, kind of a jack of all trades all over that defense. He can play a little bit of middle linebacker. He can play a little bit of outside linebacker. He can play a little bit of defensive end. He can play a little bit of cover safety, those kinds of things. But the key for that is that Parsons needs to be freed up. And to do that, you need to have another defensive end that can apply some pressure. And Gregory was that guy. He was pretty much, when he was on the field, not injured, suspended, whatever the case may be that kept him out of the lineup, whenever he was on the field, his production was never in question. He got a hit on the quarterback 1 out of every 6 dropbacks, graded out as one of the best pass rushers in the NFL every single year he was with the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to miss him on that defensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence is going to draw a little bit more attention, and now Micah Parsons, they can key on him on defense as well. They need to sign somebody to that defensive end position, and they did bring in somebody in Dante Fowler Jr. He does have some experience with Dan Quinn's defense, so we'll see what kind of Dan Quinn magic can happen with Dante Fowler Jr. Do I expect 10 sacks or more? No. Do I expect 5 sacks? I could see 5, 6, 7 somewhere in there. But Randy Gregory's effectiveness on this team, his effectiveness to be able to get to the quarterback, consistently will be missed. After they had moved on, they still needed help at the safety position. They did re-sign Malik Hooker, 2 years, $8 million, that kind of a thing. As far as like Cowboys coming off of injury last year, Zeke had some surgery over the offseason. Michael Gallup, the wide receiver, they did sign him to fill the shoes of Amari Cooper in the offense. CeeDee Lamb takes over the number 1 position. Gallup takes over the number 2. They did sign James Washington as well to that wide receiving core. They re-signed Noah Brown as well. So we'll see what kind of play that they have designed for them. I still expect them to possibly draft a wide receiver. The veteran Washington probably fills in as that number 4 wide receiver in this offense. Noah Brown, more of a blocking screen type of wide receiver for you. Does kind of the dirty work that Terrence Williams did years ago. One thing that the Cowboys did try to chase in free agency was Von Miller. There was some rumors out there that he was trying to go back to the Denver Broncos. There were some rumors that he would go to the LA Rams. He lives just outside of the Cowboys facility in Frisco. He does have connections to as being a Texas A&M graduate, so there was a lot of momentum going there, especially after Randy Gregory was not an option for the Cowboys and he went on to Denver. Von Miller was a very highly sought after name by the Cowboys. Both the Cowboys and Von Miller's camp had interest in joining up, but apparently that didn't happen. There was interest in Von Miller going back to the Rams. He just won a title there. Aaron Donald even tried to convince him, basically saying, if you're not here, I may retire. And we still don't know if that's going to be the case. So we'll see if he's going to retire or not. I don't expect him to. But I think it was more of a ploy to get Von Miller to come back, or to get Von Miller to come back and say, hey, let's run this back. But Von Miller ended up saying no there. After Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb are now the defensive ends on Denver, he was looking for a new home. And he found one with the Buffalo Bills. They offered him 6 years, $120 million. They offered him $51 million guaranteed. Most of that guaranteed money is early on in the deal, so that 120 is just kind of makes it look really nice and pretty for a deal for him. But at his age, I do not expect him to play all 6 years with the Buffalo Bills. But in either event, the Cowboys missed out on one of their top targets again after missing out on Randy Gregory. You might remember Jerry Jones pretty much keeps every single player he's ever wanted to keep on the Cowboys. And now we have one exception, Randy Gregory. Probably the story of the offseason so far for the Dallas Cowboys is the loss of Randy Gregory. First, he agrees to a contract with Dallas, 5 years, $70 million, $28 million guaranteed. And now they were just about to sign on the dotted line when, of course, the Cowboys do as they always do with every free agent they have ever signed since Jerry has been taking on these high-risk, high-reward candidates anyway. He has some specific language that he puts in those deals. It's not unique to Randy Gregory. It's not unique to any other player on the Cowboys roster. However, it is unique as far as the Cowboys versus any other team. Most other teams don't put this language in every single contract they do, but the Cowboys do it. And apparently they went above and beyond in this, and Randy Gregory just wasn't having it. He said, I'm getting my $28 million guaranteed. That's why I agreed to the lower guarantee, so I could get that higher payday as well. He wasn't willing to do both, give the language and the low guarantee. So he turns around to Denver, takes that contract he just agreed to with Dallas, and says, hey, will you do this without all these extra stipulations? And they said, absolutely. And you kind of can't blame them. They just traded for quarterback Russell Wilson. They needed to improve the defensive side of the ball after getting rid of one of their defensive tackles, the Shelby Harris, in that deal. And so they definitely improved their defensive line. But for the Cowboys, this is the first time Jerry Jones has not gotten a guy of his own that he wanted to keep. You can say whatever you want about outside free agents not coming to Dallas, but as far as players in his own camp, he's never let one get away that he wanted to keep on Dallas, and now he has. Randy Gregory will be missed on that Dallas defensive line. That's why they tried to go after Von Miller, and that's why Dante Fowler Jr. will be needed next year opposite DeMarcus Lawrence. Let us know in the comments section what you think of the addition of Dante Fowler Jr., the loss of Randy Gregory. What do you think this means for the team as a whole? Where do you think they go from here? Now, they've lost Connor Williams in free agency as well to Miami. Cedric Wilson, their 4th receiver last year, goes to Miami as well. So they've already suffered some depth losses. Keanu Neal isn't on the team right now. They did re-sign, like I said, Leighton Vander Esch to kind of shore up some of that need on that linebacker position. One thing the Cowboys are always key about, or one important key they always focus on before they go into the draft, make sure they have somebody at every single position before you go into the draft. That way you do not have to worry about those positions in the draft. You don't draft based on need. You draft on best available. That's what the Cowboys did when they got CeeDee Lamb. That's worked out very well for them. They did need some help on defense, but there wasn't one specific need on defense except maybe cornerback last year, and they went with the best player available on their board in Micah Parsons, and he definitely earned it last year. There was plenty of talk about going after a cornerback, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain. They got Micah Parsons after they traded back and got an extra third-round pick. So good work for the Cowboys getting an extra pick and getting the defensive player of the or the rookie defensive player of the year last year. Do I expect his performance to improve, possibly becoming the actual defensive player of the year? Very likely. Micah Parsons, best pass rusher in the NFL by grade last year. If he was just rushing the passer on every single down, do I expect his effectiveness to kind of wane a little bit? Sure, but I also expect that sack number to go up. He performed very well as a rookie, so we'll see what year 2, year 3, and year 4 of that rookie deal entail. What do you think the Cowboys should do now? Should they go after another defensive end that's out there on the market? Most of them are already gone. Chandler Jones signed with the Raiders, and Ngakoue from the Raiders got traded to the Colts. There's not much out there as far as defensive end. Do you think they go after a cornerback that's out there? Possibly. I've been rumored to go after Patrick Peterson in the past. Maybe they go after somebody like that again, a veteran. Of course, Kelvin Joseph didn't play much last year. He did get some run at the end of the season, a little bit in the playoff, but he's still very young, very green for the Cowboys at that position. So unless they see a lot of improvement in training camp, I don't expect him to take over any type of starting role. You got Diggs on one corner, Brown on the other. Brown graded out for most of the season as one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Diggs, while everybody thought he was doing great because of all the interceptions, he still gave up a lot of big plays. So you need some consistency, a little bit more consistency out of him. Safety has always been kind of a black hole for the Cowboys. They really never seem to invest in that position. Ever since Darren Woodson and George Teague were there, they really haven't invested in that spot. They've had Roy Williams at one time, but they drafted him. He was more of a in the box safety, kind of like a Cam Chancellor type, 100 tackles a season type of player. But they've never really invested in a safety. Last year they got great performance out of Jaron Kearse. Now Kearse was kind of a minimum salary guy that they got last year. Vikings, Lions, that's where he's come from. He played with Deshaun Watson with Clemson. So he's got a good pedigree with him. Last year, really great year for him. Exploded all over the field. Lots of tackles for the Cowboys. And that's what's making the contract negotiation a little difficult for the Cowboys. Do they pay him for all those tackles that he got last year? They don't really pay for safeties. Or are they going to kind of give him a little bit more of a bump from that minimum salary? I expect them to finally come somewhere in that $4 million range. He's not a $10 million safety. So we'll see where that contract ends up. But Kearse was a very important part of that defense last year. So we'll see what he brings to the table. Again, that safety position they haven't really invested in. Will they go after another safety this year? They put $4 million a year towards Malik Hooker. He performed well. In college, he was more of a ball hawking safety. So we'll see if he can continue that as he gets more comfortable in this Dan Quinn defense. Let us know in the comment section what you think they should do at that safety position. With that said, let's see if we can get to some of our questions that we've had. Now, bear with me. I need my glasses to be able to see. Darn ring light will show all the wrinkles, the rings on my glasses, but that's okay. One question that we did get was, what do you think about Dante Fowler joining the Cowboys? I don't expect it to be anything great. I expect him to fill a hole. He may even get cut before the season begins, just like they did with the safety that they signed last year. Clinton Dix wasn't even a Cowboy by week 1. They did sign him to a $4 million deal. It sounds like Dante Fowler Jr. signed something similar. A 1-year, $5 million deal is what it sounded like. So we'll see what kind of presence he brings to that defensive line. Maybe he has something with Dan Quinn. Maybe there's some type of chemistry, something that Dan Quinn can unlock there. So we'll see what happens. But as far as the addition of Dante Fowler, it doesn't move the needle one way or the other. Dante Fowler Jr. is a decent NFL pass rusher, but he's not going to move the needle. He's not going to scare any opposing quarterback. And the days of him being considered a top prospect are gone. The days of him being considered an elite or high quality pass rusher are gone as well. We'll see if he can rekindle that again, joining with Dan Quinn. One comment that I've been getting on some of my videos is what are they going to do now that Amari Cooper is gone? Amari Cooper, he played great for the Cowboys for all 3 years he was there, posted up, like I said, every single week. Do I expect them to go out there and try to get somebody like a Julio Jones? Possibly, if the number is right. The Cowboys, after having some difficulty spending that money they saved by doing the restructuring and extensions and reworking deals and those kinds of things, they haven't really spent it. Spending it on players of their own is what they originally had planned through Randy Gregory, Demarcus Lawrence, those kinds of names, Michael Gallup as well. But they haven't really done that. They did bring back Michael Gallup on a 10-year, $62 million deal. Pretty good high quality value there, especially when you consider Christian Kirk got 4 years and 80-some million dollars from the Jacksonville Jaguars. DJ Moore, well, he's a very good small receiver for the Carolina Panthers, got 3 years and $63 million. Way overpaid for smaller receivers. Devontae Adams, possibly the best NFL receiver, got a 5 year, or I can't remember the years on it anyway, but he got $28.25 million per year. That's quite a contract for a receiver. So getting Michael Gallup for less than 15 a year, high quality signing for the Dallas Cowboys. Bravo, great signing. Now will he bounce back off of that injury that he had at the end of last year? Remains to be seen, and that's probably why his price tag wasn't necessarily astronomical and why they were able to bring him back. But to get that longer term, which is what they were hoping for, Michael Gallup was hoping to cash in on a shorter term deal and then go back into the free agent market. The Cowboys got their wish and got the long term deal done. So I expect Gallup to be around for a number of years. But do I expect them to go after somebody like a Julio Jones? If the contract comes back to them, possibly. But I still expect Julio Jones to go after one of the go title chasing, as we would say. You got the he's been already rumored with the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo released former Cowboy Cole Beasley a couple of days ago. I don't expect him to come back to Dallas, though. Dallas needs somebody to kind of fill that Amari Cooper role in this offense, maybe give him a little bit more speed, like a Cedric Wilson in this offense. James Washington does bring some of that speed, but I do expect them to go for more of a speed guy, unless Julio says, I want to go to Dallas. If he makes that proclamation, Jerry Jones signs him. I don't think it's any question. 1 year, 2 years, $10 million. We'll see what ends up happening there. But do I expect them to go after any high-priced free agents? I don't think so. I think they're probably going to try to invest in their own team again, try to get contracts locked up, secure their salary cap structure going forward, maybe go into free agency next year and get one of their top players on their board. Remember, the biggest contract the Cowboys have signed over the past several years has been Brandon Carr for 5 years and $50 million. The Cowboys don't go out and spend in free agency. They never have. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Let us know in the comment section what you think of the Cowboys getting all these moves done, restructuring contracts, bringing back Gallup, losing on Gregory, not getting Miller, possibly going after Bobby Wagner. Let us know what you think of that in the comments, and we'll see about getting back to those comments as quickly as we can. Maybe do another live stream next Saturday. But thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Upside.